Hey guys, welcome to my reading journal. For this video, I'm going to be going over the book One of Us is Lying, written by Karen McManus. If you're new here, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you can see my future videos. You can also leave a like and comment on the video as well. Now, this review video is going to have a spoiler-free section, a spoiler section, and my ratings. The chapter titles are going to be in the description. That way you can go ahead and move around the video however you'd like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the spoiler-free section. Alright, so if you don't know anything about this book, the one way that I can really describe it, and I've seen the author describe it the same way, and it was pretty much on purpose. Think of the movie The Breakfast Club. Now, if you don't know that movie, you have to watch the movie. But it's basically a group of teenagers, and they're all stereotypically different. They all have their different categories, their different tropes that they're following. And in the movie, they bond, they get along and everything, and they become friends. But in this one, again, you have your group of 5 kids who go into detention, but one of them dies in detention, and only 4 walk out alive. And the whole mystery is what happened, who killed him, and what's the true story. So this book is a mixture of YA contemporary along with a mystery thriller type of thing, because you have a murder that happened, and little by little you're trying to piece together what happened, what's the truth, who did what. And in the book you are following the 4 other perspectives of the people that were in the detention room. And what I liked about this book is that each character had really their own story, their own arc, their own personalities and thoughts and everything. And that was really refreshing, because a lot of books do stick to like one, maybe 2 perspectives, but this one did push the limits and really focused on the 4 perspectives. And I think overall it was pretty much even with how much one character was written as opposed to the other. So I think that did a really good job. The only thing that I can say that I didn't really like about the 4 different perspectives being shown in one book is that whatever character arcs that there were, I think that because so much time was spent moving between perspectives, the character arcs weren't fully fleshed out as much as I would like them to be. Now, with that said, I do like all the characters individually and the arcs that they go through in this book. But again, I just think that with the 4 separate perspectives that we are getting, their arcs really were kind of sacrificed in a way, just because we did need to move between each character. I would say that the book overall is pretty straightforward. The information you do get little by little, and you start understanding the Simon character, the one that passed away. You start understanding the other characters, and you start really trying to piece together like what happened. I think with this being a YA mystery, it really does do a solid job. I did read this many years ago, back when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it when I read it. Obviously, there's the mystery of what happened to Simon, right? The one that died, like who killed him, who was responsible. So there's that big mystery, but there's also other mysteries within the other characters. So that made the story interesting as well, because it wasn't just focusing on one big thing. We were really diving into the lives of these characters. So this time when I reread it, I again knew what the ending was. I knew what happened, but it was still a good read. When I was reading it, I was still entertained with the story. I was still liking the characters and liking where the character arcs were going. But again, my only qualm was the fact that the character arcs to me were a little bit sacrificed and kind of surface level, because the book had to be changing perspectives. The only other thing that I'll say for the spoiler free part is that I think the ending was a bit rushed. Not terrible, but I think it got to the point where it was like, okay, we got to finish the book. All right, so that is it for my spoiler free section. I'm going to move on to my spoiler section. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can move on to my rating section. The description is going to have the timestamp for it, but let's get to the spoilers. All right, so obviously we have to talk about what happened at the end, the whole Simon of it all. And for me, Simon taking his own life away and trying to frame the other 4 students because he was mad, because he wanted attention, sounds like a good twist, sounds like a big power play move. But unfortunately for me, again, because of how quick the ending really revealed it, and I didn't really understand, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I didn't fully understand his beef with every single one enough that he would want them framed for murder. Like, all of that unfortunately left me unsatisfied, not to the point where I completely disliked the book because of that or anything, but it really did felt somewhat unsatisfying, and I only wish that it was better explained, better combed through, because again, I don't really understand why he was so mad and why he was so hell bent on making these four specifically be the ones that were targeted. And what was weird for me at the end was the fact that Chris, who is Cooper's boyfriend, who hadn't really been in the book for a lot, like we knew of him, but like he wasn't a big part of the book. He is the one that really pieced the things together. I didn't really like that. Like it felt like he was just put in there. Obviously, want to show that Cooper was being more um, welcoming and more sure of himself in his relationship. So it makes sense that Chris would be there at the end. But I don't know, him being the one that pieces the things together. It felt that, if anything, that felt like it was kind of shoehorned in, but I wasn't necessarily mad at it. I was just like, I wish it was a different character that put the things together. Honestly, that really was the only thing that I disliked in the book, because everything else regarding the characters and their character arcs, I really did enjoy. So yeah, actually, let's go over the characters one by one. So obviously, the first one that I want to talk about is Bronwyn. Bronwyn is the one that I think I can relate to the most because I am that intelligent type. I am the one that is more analytical. During high school, I was the type that really focused on my grades and making sure that I was doing good in school. And there's nothing wrong with that and everything. So her arc of her just letting herself more loose, her learning to do what feels right to her and not necessarily what everyone expects her to do, I think was really relatable in a sense. But I also feel like part of her arc was also attached to her romance with Nate. And that's the part that I also felt iffy with, because I'm I'm the type of person that I love in books when someone is doing is someone is growing simply because they are bettering themselves, not because of a relationship, right? So her learning to let loose, her learning to block out other people's expectations and do what she feels is right, do what she wants, I feel like is a good arc, but it being directly tied with her relationship with Nate, again, that's the part that I felt iffy with. I know that a lot of people love their relationship. I've read other reviews. They love Bronwyn and Nate together. So my beef isn't that they're together or that they had romance. I just felt like both of their character arcs were directly tied to the relationship. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I just wish that it was more individualized, but that's just me. All right, so now that I talked about Bronwyn, let's talk about Nate. Nate, I think, is one of the ones that had the most layers. I think Cooper's the one that had the most layers overall, but Nate definitely had a good amount of layers to his character. And him being someone who has this tragic story, who automatically people are going to assume that he's the one that had something to do with Simon's death. He is the one that Bronwyn should be staying away from because of the type of person that he has become, and all of that stemming again from his childhood drama, him being kind of abandoned and him having trust issues, and him throughout this book learning to trust, learning to let people in, not only Bronwyn with her being like someone he's interested in dating, but him also letting the other two in into his life in kind of a friend manner. I think that was well done. So I applaud the book for that. All right, so next let's talk about Addie. Addie, I honestly didn't really like, I think, the first half of the book, and I think it was kind of intentional in the sense that her acting the way that she acted, her mentality, that was what needed to change. And as a reader, me seeing her being so dependent on people's opinions, her being so dependent on her boyfriend, and the way that her home life and the expectations that the mother puts on her and everything. like it's really easy to get frustrated with Addie, and I felt myself getting frustrated with her, but I also felt like her arc just needed to really start picking up because again, I already knew the ending and I knew that she wasn't going to be with her boyfriend at the end. So I just needed her to like really get her arc started earlier because out of everyone, I think hers is the one that really took its time. And I'm like, we got to speed this up, dude. So yeah, ultimately her learning to be her own person, her learning to enjoy things that she enjoys, being able to make other friends not because they're popular but because they actually care about her. I think that is a good story to tell, but again, I think it was kind of surface level, unfortunately, because of how much time the other perspectives needed as well. And now, last but not least, we have Cooper. Cooper, again, I said is the one that I think has the most layers to him because this is the one that has a rumor, has a secret that are not the same, and he would rather people believe the rumor of him using steroids and not finding out the truth that he is gay. And there's that whole thing. If I'm remembering the book correctly, I think he also doesn't enjoy baseball as much as his father believes, and he has all this pressure to perform well because of his father's expectations. And I'm really hoping that this is true. I read this book back in April. Right now, it is the middle of July. So if I got that part incorrectly, I apologize. But from what I remember, I'm pretty sure that's the deal where he does enjoy baseball, but not as much as his father's expecting him to. And he's very unsure if that's really what he wants to do for the future, or maybe he is sure, but again, just the expectation of it is from his family side. He doesn't want to disappoint his dad from that. He also doesn't want to disappoint his dad by giving him the news that he's gay. He also has a girlfriend. That way he can hide that part of his life. And but at the same time, he's also seeing some guy, and he cares about the dude, but it's like in the dark, like right, it's hidden. So out of everything, I think again layers because what really hit me the most was the fact that he was more okay with the rumor of him using steroids in order for that to hide the fact that he was gay. But just like everyone else's character arcs, I think that his, again, overall was pretty surface level in the sense of we got where we needed to be, but we didn't dive deep because we just needed to focus on so many other things. All right, so that is it for my spoiler section. Now it's time for my rating and my overall thoughts. My rating is 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I again thought the investigative and mystery angle was well done because you have this big mystery and you have all these little mysteries, and it's really easy to connect with the characters, connect with their stories, and you're like trying to figure all these things out as the book is progressing. And I think the book is overall fast paced enough that you're just gonna fly by with the book. And like the only two qualms that I have with this book is the fact that personally I think the ending was just a little bit rushed. If it was allowed to breathe, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. And I think that the character arcs that the characters went through were kind of surface leveled in the sense that we weren't able to really dive deep because of the manner that the book was structured. But overall, it was still a good reading experience. It had good characters, good plot, and good character arcs, even if they were surface level. But yeah, overall, 4 out of 5. I would recommend it if you are younger and you like or want to experience a mystery type of story, especially with a murder mystery. And if you like having these arc type of characters with one being a jock, one being the smart student, one being the popular girl, one being the troublemaker. Like, so yeah, I would recommend the book. I don't personally plan on reading any of the other books, but I'm hoping that they are just as good or if not better than this one was. But yeah, that's pretty much it for all of my thoughts that I have for this book. If you watched this far, thank you so much. Go ahead, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all those things, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.